All right, good morning. Thank you for your patience this morning as we were waiting for everyone to get in this morning. And we will go ahead and call the House Committee on Higher Ed to order. Clerk will please take attendance.
Chair Glanville.
Present.
Representative Rygans.
Present.
Goldar.
Here.
Burns. Cofia.
Here.
Hill.
Here. We're talking. Scott is here.
We're talking in class.
McDowell.
Hill is here.
McDowell.
Here.
Pies. Present. Vanderwall.
Present.
Paquette.
Here.
Zorn. Here. Brock.
Present.
Lasana.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have 13 members present at one.
All right. See, we're all excited for this morning's committee. I know it's going to be a good one. So, to get started, Representative Rygans moves to order the minutes to approve the minutes of the October 11th meeting without objection. So ordered. And today we are going to be taking testimony on HB 5175, 5176, and 5177. So just to give a little prelude to what we have coming up, there were recent updates in 2020 to the FAFSA, and the Congress passed the FAFSA Simplification Act in 2020. And part of that included the restoration of Pell Grants for incarcerated students. All of that came through as of July 1st, 2023. The provisions have all been updated via the FAFSA Simplification Act. And so we are going to hear about some programs here in Michigan that now have an opportunity to also be updated and provide more opportunity for incarcerated students. So with that, I will invite Representative O'Neill and Representative Wilson to come forward and tell us all about this package of bills. And you can begin when you're ready.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of this distinguished committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on my bill today. This bill seeks to invest in all Michigan college students by providing equal access to student financial aid programs wherever their classroom is, online, on campus, or while incarcerated. As the law stands now, 7 colleges and universities in Michigan have degree or certificate programs for prisoners. 4 of these programs are bachelor's degree programs. Students are not charged for enrollment in these programs, and most are funded through private grants, institutional funds, and limited financial aid. Inadequate financial resources create limitations for starting or expanding the access to these degree programs in Michigan prisons. And currently, over 3,000 are on the wait list to enroll. This bill looks to change that limitation, Madam Chair. Michigan has 8 student financial aid programs, only half of which are accessible for incarcerated students. These bills expand to all 8 of these financial aid programs to encompass incarcerated student eligibility. None of these changes, however, will impact the current budget or require a large state investment. I think that's good news for everybody to hear. However, but will have an immeasurable lasting impact on those who benefit from this increased access to funding. It has been shown that individuals who obtain a degree are less likely to reenter the system, saving the state's correctional budget money in the long run. And as we know, our correctional budget is $2 billion of taxpayer dollars. The average recidivism rate for high school completers is 55%, but only 5% of those who obtain a bachelor's degree. I think that's some startling statistics there, and it shows to the benefit of making sure individuals who are under our custody are able to attain a knowledge base, a skill set, and a shift in their paradigm in terms of thinking before their release. This legislation will help uplift our incarcerated neighbors by providing more opportunities to get ahead. Education is a gateway to new opportunities and personal development. It makes good sense to allow those within the system who are waiting to complete their time to come back to our neighborhoods to get something bigger. Madam Chair, members of this committee, this legislation will transform our criminal justice system, our incarcerated prisoners, and our population size. I thank you for this opportunity, and I appreciate your support.
Thank you. Rep. Wilson, you want to go ahead, and then we'll see if anybody has questions for the two of you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Rep. O'Neill, for including me on this package of bills. I'm not going to be too long. I just want to make 2 points. The first one is I believe that this legislation is about fairness, allowing incarcerated students to have the same access to tuition assistance as any other student in the state. And then the second piece, I would say, when we're talking about rehabilitation with our incarcerated folks, no matter what your political background may be or affiliation, we all want to make sure that folks are coming out with the tools they need to really reintegrate into society with the best tools that they have to be productive members of society. So those are the 2 comments I'd like to make on this legislation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. It's interesting. We call it the Department of Corrections, and so here's an opportunity to do some of that rehabilitation. So looking forward to hearing more about the program. Are there any questions for Rep. Wilson? I know we have many people wishing to speak, including folks from the Department of Corrections, so we might need to defer to them. But any initial questions?
I'll hold my questions to the department.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Rep. Wilson. Oh, wait. What? Who? Oh, Rep. Pius.
Thank you, Chair. I'm wondering, do we have what degrees are available? Are they available also to only certain incarcerated individuals? Someone with short terms. I have 2 art degrees, but I'm fortunate to be here. I don't know if getting an art degree in prison is going to be helpful along those lines. Thank you.
The types of degrees programs, I think some other folks may be able to speak better on that. But this legislation specifically is allowing the different tuition assistance programs. Right now, Michigan has about 8 available for students. Incarcerated folks only have access to about 4 of those programs. We want to open it up to the other 4 as well, so they have the same access to those other tuition assistance programs just like anybody else. It's not specific to the degrees.
And we do have a number of representatives from higher ed here to talk about the programs, so we might get a little bit more detail in that regard. Rep. Bruck.
Well, I could wait till the end, but I appreciate you being here. Thank you, Chair. My question has to do with I guess it's the bill, so it'll probably be to you or Rep. O'Neill. But regarding to the felonies, so it's allowing people with certain felonies, but I see it in the notes, it's if there was a death that occurred from the felony that they committed, they still are applicable. That's what it's eliminating, that language, the prohibition from, I guess, are there some certain crimes that are not able for these individuals to enroll in that program?
I think Rep. O'Neill would have been better for that question, actually, in regards to that. So I'm not actually aware of that specific question.
Yeah, we can get that information for you.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Just to be clear, you're asking if there are any exclusions. Are there certain crimes that would exclude a participant from this program? Okay. All right. Anything else for our bill sponsor? All right. Thank you, Rep. Wilson, for being here today. Next up on virtual, we have Colby Spencer Cesaro. She's with the Michigan Independent Colleges and Universities. Colby, are you here? Oh, there you are. All right. You may begin when ready.
Can everyone hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And thank you to Representatives O'Neill and Wilson for your support and sponsorship. I am going to be very brief because the bill sponsors provided an excellent overview of why these programs are so important and the issue at hand. So a little background on Pell. Right now in Michigan, federal Pell grants can help students at specific institutions cover the cost of their education. And as Rep. O'Neill referenced, A student who is in a prison college program does not have any cost. There is no cost for tuition. They're not incurring debt. And these are really important for these individuals to have that. And the programs that currently don't use Pell are completely privately funded, either by institutional funds or other private donors. And for the institutions that did have access to Second Chance Pell, which is just a handful of institutions nationally, it's about 200 institutions nationally that were awarded that status. Those institutions add on institutional aid and other financial aid to cover the cost, because Pell doesn't fully cover the tuition and expenses for these students. Now, we know the programs are really effective. We'd like to see them grow. And so, as was referenced already, there's a wait list for students who would like to enroll in a college program. They are eligible to enroll. And the issue is that there isn't enough space and funding to cover the cost to provide that education. And a few speakers later on will talk more about the expansion efforts across Michigan. More community colleges, more four-year institutions in particular are interested in expanding programs. And because, as you referenced, Madam Chair, the expansion of Pell to all prison programs, there is an opportunity to add more space for students, more seats for students to enroll, but Pell doesn't fully cover it. And in many institutions, their institutional aid is already tapped out, or they just can't quite make it happen. And so expanding to student financial aid programs, the way it has been done with Reconnect, the way it's been done with the tuition incentive program. So the other programs, Fostering Futures is another good example that is currently can be used. These bills would level the playing field a little bit. And ideally, we'd see this also expand to the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. So then that would get all aid programs eligible for students. And so I think on the funding structure, these bills are a step in the right direction to allow more programs to either offer additional seats or to begin in the first place. And that's what we want to see more of, because the data is so compelling on an individual with a baccalaureate degree. Their reoffending rate is so low. And we know if someone has a master's degree, it goes down to 0. And so as we are going through this process, it's not about the individuals and the funding tied to the student. It's a lot more focused on equal access so that there's more opportunity for higher ed programs to offer programs to students in prison.
Thank you so much. I just have a couple of clarifying questions. Just to be clear, there are already programs in the state that incarcerated students can access to help fund their education, and we're looking to expand it to include more of those programs. So
correct.
There's more
there are
opportunity.
8, Yep. There are 8 programs. 4 already can be used. Reconnect is one of them. TIP is one of them. Fostering Futures is another. The Police and Firefighter Survivors Grant is another one. Some of these are smaller, and there are a lot of other restrictions on them with age and applications and other things. But those ones are allowed. They do not have a line that says the student must not be incarcerated. But the Michigan Tuition Grant, CVTG, Competitive Scholarship, and the Achievement Scholarship all have that stipulation. And if Michigan is able to open up access to all of the financial aid programs, we will be the first state in the nation to treat students who are in college and prison programs the same as those outside in terms of financial aid, because then they'll also have access to federal Pell. So we would be the first state to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds fantastic. And when we think about, the cost incurred for incarceration, recidivism, and all the, rehabilitation that takes place as one is returning, I think this is a fantastic opportunity to mitigate a lot of that. So thank you. Are there additional questions for Ms. Cesaro? Oh, yep, Rep. Hill.
I was just trying to find, sorry. Is there a list somewhere of the ones that are not eligible? Am I missing that? People are listing them off and verbally, and it'd be
The
great to
programs?
just see that list. Has that been prepared by anyone?
I don't
Can
have
you
any.
repeat that? I couldn't hear clearly.
We're asking about what are the program names, the scholarship or the programs you mentioned. Reconnect. What are the ones that can be used? And we're just looking for a complete list.
Sure, absolutely. And we can follow up. I have a
Okay.
matrix of
Yeah.
all of the aid programs, and then who's eligible, what are the restrictions, how much it is,
Yeah.
what it can be applied to.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, just
Perfect.
that information
So
would
I
be
can-
helpful, that's all.
We'll
Sure.
Yep, we'll be in touch. Rep. Pius?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You mentioned that the program, that you know the program is effective and that the data is compelling. I'm wondering if you could say more about that, what the data is or how you know it's effective. Thank you.
Absolutely. So this is looking at the recidivism rate. So on average, a person that has a high school diploma has a 55% chance of reoffending. And so if we look at the broader landscape of individuals involved in the correction system, 95% of individuals who are currently incarcerated will be released at some point. And so if we think about it as part of the corrections process and rehabilitation process, for those with high school, and we know that there's a really robust GED program, high school equivalency program, that those individuals, that's 55% likelihood of re-entering the system. And that's pretty high, and it's a really high cost. And if we look at individuals that obtain a baccalaureate degree, the recidivism rate drops to 5%, which is incredible. I mean, it's an order of magnitude difference. It's nearly zero. And if someone is able to obtain a master's degree, it does drop to zero. And so we look at this as it's such a minimal state investment. I mean, particularly for these programs, because additional appropriations aren't currently needed to expand the programs. The programs can expand to be offered to students in prison without any additional funding at the moment. If there's a strong surge in enrollment, both for students who are in prison and students outside of prison, we'd love to see more college enrollment. So if that does in fact happen, we're going to need to have an appropriations conversation to make sure that those programs are kept whole. But as of this moment, and I think the foreseeable future, it doesn't seem to be likely that additional funding is needed. So it's a really minimal state investment for something that has such a tangible, positive outcome. And I think obviously there's additional opportunity. I mean, we have a lot of individuals here who are going to talk more about the program expansion needs, because by no means do these bills actually completely change the game, but they're a start. And it's an opportunity, and it's as the bill sponsors have referenced, this is the beginning of trying to provide equal access to students, and then we can go to the next phase and have a conversation about, okay, where else do we need additional investment to make sure these programs continue to expand so that we have more students going through them. Our state needs individuals who are highly educated, and we also don't want people to come back into the correction system after they've moved through it.
All right, Vice Chair Vanderwall, or Minority Vice Chair Vanderwall.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for being here. And I find this very interesting, and I by no means take these questions out of context, but I really want to, how many students currently do we have that are going through college courses right now inside our prison system? Do we know?
The last data that I obtained from the Department of Corrections, and they can correct me if I'm wrong because I think they're here today, I have 842 individual students enrolled in degree and certificate programs. And so that's across community colleges and four-year public and private institutions. So
And
those
if
are
we-
degree seeking.
okay.
There are also students in courses, so that's separate. There are other higher education institutions that may not offer a certificate or degree program that have courses, but they may or may not lead to a certificate or a degree. So these are in a specific degree or certificate program where they're going to graduate.
So if we have 842 that are currently in the program, if we expand this and allow this, do we have even, and maybe Madam Chair, you know, how many more opportunities people that are incarcerated would have? Do we know a number, what that would grow to or potentially grow to?
So that is an excellent question. We have a wait list of 3,000. So that's our high end at the moment. And we know from some institutions, and they can speak to this today, what their potential expansion could be given additional student funding and investment. So going from everything completely privately funded or institutionally funded to then having Pell dollars come in, assuming a student has access to that. You know, there's eligibility requirements on all of these student financial aid programs. So some students may still be fully covered by private funds or institutional aid. And so each institution can speak to that. Our estimates look at the 4-year, I'm looking mainly at the 4-year level. Our estimates were saying maybe an additional 200 would be in the next 5 years ideally, but that each institution is going to have to speak to that because they're the ones planning.
Beautiful. I appreciate that. I just look at the numbers and I think, and if I can ask one question, then I'll let it go on and we'll come back to some of the other ones. I do believe that's got to be an extra cost to the system. I mean, if we're going to take from 842 to bring it to 3,000, there still has to be an absorbed cost inside the prison budget. And I do believe we need to try to answer that because if we're properly going to do it, and I really truly do believe that the opportunities of somebody, you know, coming back into the system after we've given them the tools where we've lacked in the past, there has to be a cost. Even though we're going to absorb less people in the system in the future, but in the first initial half a dozen years, there's going to have to be a cost. And I guess my question is, do we know what that is? If we don't, Madam Chair, if we could find that number, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll run that through House Fiscal and see if we can get a better estimate on that. Thank you. Rep. Kofia?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I think this ties in potentially well with the Minority Vice Chair's point. I'm thinking about budgets and numbers and what we spend, for example, annually to house inmates within our corrections facilities in Michigan. I haven't seen the most recent statistics, so maybe when the Department of Corrections comes up to speak to that. But I'm trying to place, if we're keeping people from entering back into the system, how much we are saving annually per person who does not end up back in the system. I had heard somewhere around 40-some thousand a year that we spend in Michigan to house folks in our corrections. So would just love for whomever is appropriate here to speak to that budget number and what we would be saving in the future.
Yeah, we do have Department of Corrections here, so I'm sure, hopefully they will be able to answer that for us. All right, any other questions for Mrs. Sar? Okay, we do have a number of presenters, so, yep, Representative Brush.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your testimony. Clarification question, so there's the 8 programs, those that are incarcerated that are just being made eligible for these additional 4 programs. There's no, I'll say, special identifier that gives them a better chance of getting that. These are just, it's just making these individuals able to apply for existing grants that are currently in place.
Correct. It's not, we're on the higher education side for how financial aid is structured, the way that each student has a defined cost of attendance, and that's based on the program that they're enrolled in and, books and materials and all of that, their tuition. And then all the different aid programs they're eligible for stack up to help pay for that, and then anything left over. So what this would do is for example, a student at an independent institution, I can use Siena Heights as an example because they have Second Chance Pell. If a student is enrolled in their baccalaureate program and theirs is a partnership with Jackson College for community college credits to transfer in, so that when they get to Siena Heights, the question is, are they still Pell eligible? Do they have Pell funding left? Because there are limitations on that. You can only have it for 6 years or 12 semesters. So if they have Pell funding left, that comes in. And then if these bills are able to pass, then the student would be eligible for, the financial aid director would look to see what students would be eligible for. Is it the tuition grant? Is it the competitive scholarship? Is it CBTG? Reconnect is very specific to community colleges, so they may have used Reconnect back at the community college, but then it's all structured that way. So it's just whether or not they fit the eligibility requirements. And I'll send that matrix so you can see the details, because some of them have age limitations. So yes, a student is eligible, but they're too old, so then that wouldn't count for them.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that to make sure they're not taking away from other people's grants. They're applying for the same grants that other people are eligible to apply for. It's just right now it's prohibited because of their incarcerated status, and that's the change. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Correct.
And I think that wraps up for Colby. All right, thank you for being here with us today. I appreciate you making the effort to join us via Zoom.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, this is great. So moving along, we will hear from Todd, and I'm sorry, Todd, I'm not quite sure how to... Chaffee. Oh, that was my guess. All right. Todd Chaffee, PhD, Director of the Calvin Prison Initiative. So if you can share what you have with the program there. And I have also Mike Duttler. He's virtual. He'll be speaking after you. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay. So we have two folks from the Calvin Prison Initiative that will be speaking with us. So we might hear from both of them before we do questions.
Great. Well, thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate it. I'm the director of the Calvin Prison Initiative, which is a program between Calvin University and Calvin Theological Seminary. And we started formally June 1, 2015, and we offer a BA with a double major. One of the majors is faith and community leadership, and the other one is human services. So this is our 9th year. We've graduated approximately 60 students with the BA. We currently have 100 students in the program. And the benefits of the program are really almost immeasurable. So on the one hand, this improves the environment in the prison. So we have students who are being trained not just academically, but they're being trained for leadership and services to other prisoners to help work with staff. They help with GED program. They tutor guys who are in the vocational village, learning the trades. And so this makes a huge contribution to the prison itself. And then over the last 5 years, we've had about 20 students parole, and we have seen them all get great jobs. And in 5 years, we haven't had one come in contact with the criminal justice system, let alone go to prison. And so we just feel that this improves the quality of life for everybody in the prison, outside the prison, and really for a small amount of dollars. In our case, we've privately funded our program since 2015, but then in 2019, we qualified for Second Chance Pell. And the Pell Grant provides roughly about $7,000 a year for us, and it costs $9,500 a year per student. So if the state could, in our case, close the gap of $2,500 for those students who are eligible, this would make our program sustainable for both near and far future. So we really do look at it as a kind of minimal investment, given the question came up, the cost to house somebody per year is about $35,000, $36,000. That's the low end. If you have a high security prisoner or healthcare issues, it can easily go into the $100,000 range. And so we think while it may cost money at the front end for these programs, in long term, it's going to save the state a tremendous amount of money.
Thank you. And if you can hold on there, and we'll bring Mike on to talk a little bit too, and then if there's questions for both of you. Mike Duttler is here with us via Zoom. Are you there, Mike?
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you. Yep, go ahead.
Very good. So my name is Mike Dutler. I am a proud graduate of the Calvin Prison Initiative, where I earned a Associate of Arts in 2018, the day before I went home. And I earned a Bachelor of Social Work at the main campus in 2020 as well. I am currently at Western Michigan University pursuing a Master of Social Work with a clinical concentration and a focus on trauma-informed cognitive behavioral thinking. I think it's really important to expand the financial aid to students in prison because it's going to give them a sense of hope, not only while they're in, but also when they come home. And I know that's very much true with me. I can tell you that when I was inside, I wasn't often celebrated for the good things that I've done. I was often defined by my worst mistake and told I'm not worthy of education. I'm not worthy of those chances to really grow and to expand myself, to really even discover who I am or what my purpose is outside of my crime. And so I know for the guys that I can speak for who are in the Calvin Prison Initiative, Todd spoke about those opportunities to contribute to prison. And education is one way that they're able to do that. And he spoke of the tutoring, the formal tutoring, but there's informal tutoring that goes on as well. People just understanding like, what does it mean to be a human being in this context where you're often very dehumanized and your humanity isn't very often acknowledged. And so I was in an environment for 23 years prior to my release, or 26 years prior to my release in 2018. And I can tell you, because of my educational experiences that I had through the Calvin Prison Initiative, and while on the main campus, I was able to kind of rediscover my humanity and what does that mean to be a human here in society. Education was that lens. It's how I understood myself. It's how I understood my purpose. It's very much how I'm defining my purpose now here in society and trying to contribute to society here now through clinical social work. So yeah, it begs the question. We're going to have people. We need the carceral system. It's a must. There has to be consequences for choices. I fully own whatever consequence came from my choice as a 19-year-old. But it kind of begs the question. I mean, what do we want to do with people while they're incarcerated? Do we want it to be punitive, a place where they're only defined by their worst mistake and the worst thing that they've done and stereotyped in all these negative ways? Or through education, do we want to give them a different sense of what does hope mean? What does it mean to be a person? What does it mean to have purpose? And so I'm deeply grateful for how Calvin University has helped me to understand that and grow into that, as well as Western Michigan now as I continue my studies there. And I think through the expanding of financial aid, I think this is something that it's rinse and repeat. It's not unique to me. My story isn't necessarily unique, but I think everybody is hungry. And everybody is starving for that opportunity to be understood as more than their worst mistake. Education, I'm going to say, is going to be one of the clearest and easiest paths for them to understand what it means to be more than that. So thank you very much for your time this morning. I thank you also for the honor and the opportunity to speak to the House Judiciary, or to the House Committee on Higher Education. And again, thank you for your time.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for sharing your story, and congratulations on what appears to be a bright future. So, and as a Western grad, I'm particularly pleased to hear that you're a Bronco. Do we have questions for the folks with us from the Calvin Prison Initiative at all? Okay. Well, thank you so much for your compelling testimony, and we have a few more. So next up is Mark Vroman, Jim Gornick, and Sherry Betts from Siena Heights University. If you want to come on up and go ahead and start when you're ready. Oh, and if you have particular handouts that go with, we have quite a little collection going here, so if there's something in particular that we should be perhaps referencing as you're speaking, if you can let us know.
Me the opportunity to speak. I'll keep my comments brief.
Yep. Is your mic on? Can you check that? Push the button there. There you go.
Is that better?
Yep.
Okay. Thanks again. I'll keep my comments brief. My name is Jim Gornick. I'm the Director of Corrections Education for Siena Heights University.
And we started our program 2 years ago in January, and had our first graduating class this past August, had 14 graduates. We offer a bachelor's in business administration to incarcerated individuals, and we have 4 other cohorts going on currently. So we have 40 students currently enrolled and working their way through the program. We'll have our next graduating class coming up in this coming, I think December, we'll have that graduating class done. So we'll have our second class. So a few individuals have already shared some data. I want to just be really brief, but to tell you that 2/3 of prisoners come to prison with their high school diploma or GED when they first arrive. However, only 6% have any post-secondary degrees. So obviously, there's a need in the corrections environment to offer this program. Most have limited workforce experience and marketable skills when they come to us, and 40% are rearrested within the first year of release if they have no other. And I heard the stat 55. That could be more accurate. I'm not sure, but I know it's at least 40% that will be rearrested. So why are we here today? Why are we looking for additional funding? Well, it's a taxpayer savings. For every dollar that is spent in higher ed, there's a $4 to $5 taxpayer savings for future incarceration. So that's why we do what we do, and so it's really important that we offer this opportunity for this population. It's a higher, if they do receive their degree, obviously there's a higher rate of employment, better jobs, safer communities, and lower recidivism rate, as we heard before. Before I started working with Siena Heights the past 2 years, most of my adult life I worked for the Department of Corrections. The past 20 years of that time I was a school principal. So I will tell you from my vantage point how important it is to give this opportunity for this population. I've seen so many times guys that have very little hope. They have very, very little support at home, and just seeing that transformation when they enter the classroom and finally see and gain some success in the classroom, whether it's getting their GED or going on to our program. It's just remarkable to see so many of them are first-generation graduates, and they don't have anyone at home that will pat them on the back. So many times they want to kick them down because no one else in their household have a degree. So it's really important that we offer this and just let them be the trendsetter in their community, in their household, in their community. And that's why it's so important to help and continue to support these individuals as they complete their sentence. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And go ahead.
All set. Thank you. Madam Chair, esteemed members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm Mark Vroman, assistant professor with Siena Heights University, lead faculty within our Rising Education program, which is our corrections education program. So I've been with Siena for in a variety of capacities over the last 9 years. Just wanted to share with you, I get the best part today. I get to talk about the experience in the classroom, and just the experience, that it's the last 18 months since I came to the program and working with our students directly. I found our students to be highly engaged, very dedicated, and each of them possess an unwavering commitment to academic excellence. And then we as a learning community, that's something that we really talk about, that we're a learning community. And that extends beyond the classroom. And with their time in their units, the time while they're incarcerated. Being a member of that learning community is a powerful thing. And we as a program, we're committed to bringing as close as possible the on-campus environment to our students within their respective correctional facility. I just wanted to share a couple quick stories. Had a student arrive early one evening, and I think it was the second class I had taught within the program. And he said, I wanted to share something with you, Professor Vroman. And he said that when he arrived in prison, he couldn't read. And since that time, he learned to read, finished his GED, finished 2 associate degrees with Jackson College, and was, a handful of classes away from finishing his Bachelor of Business Administration with Siena Heights University. And he successfully completed the program and graduated with our first cohort. So that's a pretty good feel-good story. One of the more challenging moments for me as an educator came about a year ago. I was teaching our BAM 301, Business and Management. It's our career management class. And I got to the end of the second class, and I felt like I'm not reaching the students. And it's all about how to take ownership in your career and, leveraging your experience, your education, and being able to communicate that you're going to be an asset to an organization one day. So I reached out to a variety of educators and just kind of came to the conclusion that at that time our students early on couldn't envision a career. They understood having a job, but they couldn't envision owning a career. And we just kind of addressed that week 3 of the class and had 9 more weeks. And after we kind of got that out, it was smooth sailing. They understood that that was something that they owned. They owned their career. So just in terms of one of the real benefits to our program as well as others is that we have a cohort system. So as an educator, I get to watch that improvement over that 18-month period. So I get to see them early on in the program and then get to see them at the end, and I get to see that growth. And in talking to my colleagues around the state with Hope and Kelvin and the other educators, again, we get the fun job. The directors, they have to deal with all the logistics. I think everybody understands, but we get the fun part, working directly with the student. But we're really looking at their critical thinking skills, their problem-solving and decision-making skill sets as well, their writing and speaking skills, and then their idea development, being creative and innovative. And I just wanted to share this with everyone. The late Dr. Patrick Winston, highly respected MIT professor, said an individual's success will be determined by 3 things. He is quoted as saying the following: your success in life will be determined largely by your ability to speak, your ability to write, and the quality of your ideas, in that order. And that's something that we embed into our programming, and I know that other institutions do as well. We embed that into the ability to speak, the ability to write, and the ability to develop high-quality ideas. I find it a little funny that Dr. Winston was a pioneer in AI, a pioneer, and yet he's still the human element, the ability to speak, write, and develop high-quality ideas. In closing, just wanted to share the bills before you will positively impact student success as they create more opportunities. And more opportunities will lay the foundation upon which our students will become accomplished and contributing members to both their respective communities and society as a whole. Thank you so much for your time today.
And thank you. As a former educator, I feel your passion and that shine of reaching those students when you do that. There's nothing like it. So thank you for your work. Representative Hill.
We've heard testimony that it can take as long as reaching age 26 to be ready to make those career decisions in previous programs, previous presenters we've had here. And that made me wonder about the age of students and what you're seeing, and if anyone, again, has that data anywhere. This does seem like a program that might be really best served for folks in their 20s or 30s, and I'm just curious to see that data.
And I would imagine perhaps Colby has that. They tend to do more of that overall programmatic view of things. So, okay. Any other questions? All right, we have a few more this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Next up, we have Megan Lechner from Eastern Michigan University, and following her, we have the Department of Corrections, Nation Outside, and then the Hope Western Prison Education Program. So, if we can try to keep our comments to the task at hand, so we can move a little quickly here. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the committee for considering these bills that are presented before you today, and for the support you've already shown to many of our growing programs. The fact that this conversation is being held at this level feels significant to those of us working in the world of carceral education. Again, my name is Megan Lechner. I'm the director of the College and Prison Program and the Returning Citizens Fellowship at Eastern Michigan University. So thank you for the opportunity to represent EMU and our baccalaureate students at Women's Huron Valley Correctional Facility in Ypsilanti. It is with our students' passion for education and our institutional position in mind that I advocate for these bills presented before you today. As Michigan's first public institution to embed a baccalaureate degree program in a correctional facility, and the only to serve women incarcerated here in Michigan, we are seeing firsthand the implications and ramifications that financial gaps have on our institutional ability to facilitate an equitable and uncompromising educational experience. For example, the average cost per credit hour for a traditional EMU student is $723. We have worked with our administration to negotiate a temporary $270 per credit hour cost for our college and prison students. This number was carefully calculated considering Pell Grant funding available with other fee reduction possibilities. The average EMU student will spend roughly $16,000 per year on tuition, fees, books, and supplies. With our generous institutional discount, our college and prison students will owe approximately $5,000 per academic year, with gaps for each student existing between $100 and $1,100 left for our program to cover. Even for those with ample Pell Grant monies remaining, by the time they enroll in our degree program, our discount is not sufficient enough to cover their entire educational need. I want to emphasize that our institutional ability to uphold this cost reduction is temporary. We are actively seeking ways to fill the growing tuition gap, and passing these bills would play an invaluable role in that effort. Simply put, institutional financial commitments and discounts are not enough when we consider the sustainability of these university programs. Relieving the institutional burden of filling the financial gap left by Pell would allow universities to create and expand our programs, curricula, and services rather than simply maintain them. As a public and regional comprehensive institution, we rarely have the privilege of working with private donors. With increased scholarship opportunities provided by the state to offset tuition and other program costs, we would be able to better use our institutionally earned or awarded funds to provide truly wraparound services and make our incarcerated student experience more comparable to that of our traditional student population. Eastern was one of just 200 schools nationwide chosen to participate in the revolutionary Second Chance Pell program. We have approached this opportunity and responsibility with great care and have implemented what we know to be transformational programs and supports for our students. We have bi-weekly writing support along with individualized financial aid and academic advising, tailored to each student's specific situation, needs, and goals. Significant studies conducted by both the Vera Institute of Justice and the RAND Corporation prove that education is the single most impactful intervention influencing reduced recidivism rates across the country. Speaking to the power of these programs, Ms. Jakara Moore, a current student in our EMU program, shared the following thought, quote, "These programs are beneficial to both incarcerated people and to the society they return to. The majority of incarcerated people are in their circumstances because they didn't have an adequate education or a passion for anything. They were unaware of their purpose in life. These educational opportunities change that narrative for thousands of people. Once people graduate, they have an idea of who they want to be. They are no longer lost. They have something to offer themselves, their family, and their community. The college and prison program was a blessing to me. I have no idea if I would have changed my outlook on life without the encouragement from instructors, opening my eyes to the realization of my full potential. I now know my purpose and who I am destined to be." Our ability to create and sustain the curricula and programs necessary to support these unique this unique student population rests on our financial ability to work with leaders in this field and an institutional willingness to create something from nothing. What traditional students and professors understandably take for granted on campus must be completely recreated or reimagined for this vulnerable population's use. Paramount is the lack of technological advancements, the largest hurdle and injustice facing our students upon their release and reintegration into our communities. We have not and will not dilute the educational expectations of our incarcerated students, and I sit before you today asking that you please consider these bills as an imperative step forward in reducing the financial barriers of these life-changing and community-changing educational opportunities. Thank you so much for the honor to speak before you today.
Thank you. It sounds like a fantastic program. So any questions for Megan? All right, thank you so much. And moving right along, we will hear from Kyle Kaminsky with the Michigan Department of Corrections.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the committee. This is not a committee that I often have the opportunity to come before, but I am appreciative of the opportunity today to express the department's support for the bill package. As part of that, we'll look forward to answering some of the questions in conjunction with our colleagues at Treasury and State Budget Office about the impact of these things as we the bills as we move forward. But we look forward to that and look forward to the possibility of expanding access to these scholarships while ensuring appropriate funding for these programs. I am the department's legislative liaison, but my day job with the department is actually overseeing all of our programming, including our education efforts. So this was a wonderful opportunity to see many of our partner schools that we get to work with on a weekly basis who are doing absolutely amazing work within our facilities in terms of these programs. The department really started to lay the groundwork a decade ago to bring post-secondary back into our facilities. At the time, there was no state or federal support for that. We relied on some outside kind of philanthropic funding to start, and then we moved to Second Chance Pell with some federal support, and now with Pell coming back in full force, we are at a point of very exciting expansion when it comes to our offerings. We have partnerships that are offering classes with 8 institutions right now, and we're talking to about another 6 institutions that we think could potentially come online in the next 2 years. While we're in that exciting expansion phase, I think as we get closer to 2025, the focus is really going to shift from expansion to sustainability. And so I think that's why it's really important that the legislature is taking on this topic today and laying the groundwork so that when we reach that point, we know that these programs that have launched will be able to continue in the long term, because that's very important to our students and very important to the impact. As has been mentioned, the research is very clear. Access to higher education is evidence-based. It reduces recidivism. It increases lifetime earnings. And so it's very much a part of the Department of Corrections strategy as a program-focused department and an education-focused department. It fits with our overall efforts in academic as well as current technical education, but it's important that we have that third avenue for folks to pursue who do want to pursue post-secondary. So I will limit my comments to that, as I suspect there may be some questions for the department, which I would be happy to take.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate you putting forth all that data. And I just want to add to that, you know, we've heard a couple different times about the humanity aspect, which of course we cannot put a number on, but the value to just the individual and community at large to have these exemplars of how you can turn your life around and become, you know, a participating and happy and well-adjusted part of our community. So, like I said, just want to make sure that we're keeping our eye on that as well, that humanity and dignity piece. So we are coming up close to end of time here. We do have 2 more speakers, so I would ask that we somewhat limit our questions. And if we can, I know we had a few budget questions, certainly we can relay those and hear back more. But Minority Vice Chair Vanderwall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll ask just the one question. Let's talk about the trades inside. I know that when I visited the correctional facility inside at Muskegon, I appreciate the tour and being involved with that, Run Through Hope. Can we talk a little bit about the trades that we've brought into the system and their cost versus and the grants that work in that?
Yeah, so we have some of the most aggressive trades programs in the country. Michigan was the first to develop a concept called the vocational villages, which are We have 3 of them now, but at the time we had 1, which is a very intensive, immersive trades approach. Other states are now copying us. They don't even change the name, quite honestly. They call them vocational villages as well. And so we've seen a number of states do that. Separate from our villages, we have other trades programs around the state. So we have about 40 separate trades programs. I think it's actually about 42 right now in over a dozen different disciplines. Our trades programs are part of the MDOC's education umbrella. So those are operated by our instructors who are state employees. But we're finding synergies, as was discussed earlier with the Calvin Prison Initiative. We're finding those synergies with the college programs where the college participants help with tutoring, or they might help with math, or they might help with other programs, et cetera. We've also increasingly seen some folks choose to kind of be dual tracked, where they're doing a trade, but they're also studying business, so that instead of just going to work, they might own their business someday. So the trades programs are something we're very proud of. We'd welcome anybody on the committee to come visit them, but they are technically separate from the post-secondary offerings, but are part of our overall educational push as a department.
Next, Rep. Hill.
I'm very concerned about the dearth of programs in the Upper Peninsula, and I know that there are 2 potentially getting started in Eastern Upper Peninsula, but there are none in my district, unfortunately, so I am very concerned about that and want to work with the department to address that challenge, given that there are 3 prisons in my district.
We would very much appreciate that. We have made we have extended an open invitation to just about every school in the state to talk to us about potential partnerships. Some schools have taken us up on that, some have not. To the extent that any legislators with prisons in their area could help us with that conversation, we would very much look forward to that. We would love to have a partner in the Western UP, quite honestly. So I'll follow up with you.
Thank you.
And Rep. Pius.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm concerned that there's only 1 women's prison in this, so I'm wondering how you decide which prisons get.
There is only 1 women's prison in the state of Michigan. So
there is only 1?
Yeah, so there's 25 male facilities, 1 female facility. Women have access to both the 2-year program through Jackson College and now the 4-year program through Eastern Michigan. Yep.
All right, seeing no further questions, thank you so much for joining us today. And we have 2 more speakers. So next up is Jessica Henry from Nation Outside. You can go ahead and make sure the microphone is on and begin when you're ready.
Good morning, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I am a mother, I'm a grandma. I'm also formerly incarcerated. I spent 5 years in Women's Huron Valley Correctional Facility. And in 2017, I began my college career with Jackson College. 2019, August, I graduated with 3 associate's degrees, 1 in Gen Studies, 1 in Arts, and 1 in Applied Science and Business Administration, with a 3.96 GPA, high honors, Phi Theta Kappa, along with 17 other women in the pilot program that they brought to Women's Huron Valley in 2016. I'm a little emotional today listening to everybody speak about the humanity of the aspect, and I don't get emotional, so I apologize. Education changed my life. Once it gave me an opportunity to find my identity and seek my true passion in life, which is social work. I came out 3.5 years ago. The Mackinac Research Center shows that those who leave prison with a college degree, it lowers the recidivism rate by 14.8%. And for me, I just graduated with my bachelor's degree from Spring Arbor with a double minor in psych and business. Also, I begin my master's degree in January. So those who can have an opportunity to have education is the most impactful thing in our corrections department. I heard you speak earlier that once we get some corrections in, maybe it'll change, and I truly believe that. I believe that I was able to gain my dignity, my worth, and my value once I got my degrees while I was incarcerated. So just to be here today and hear everybody, I was gonna say all these really good things and I got a little emotional, but education is key to changing somebody's mindsets, their behaviors, and the way that they return to society. Once you give somebody that opportunity to have value within themselves, it's a total game changer. And I now currently work with Nation Outside, and I am a policy advocate. When I go for my master's, I'll be focusing on social work in the macro field. So I do know that everything that was poured into me, not only by these college facilitators, but the teachers that came in and put value in us, the unspoken experience that the ladies in my classes learned from with each other, it just gave me new hope and new strength to proceed to my life of success. And I just want to thank you guys again for the opportunity to speak today.
Well, and thank you. And you said many great things. So well done. And congratulations also on having the courage to take these opportunities and to run with them. I think it's just, the humanity and dignity piece to me is far more valuable than some of the other things we've talked about. I mean, equally valuable, but far more valuable. So thank you so much for being here. Any questions? Real quick, Rep. Kolesar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. More of a comment. Just one thing about your testimony that caught my attention is you said you're going into social work. So not only have you gotten access to education, but you've dedicated toward a career that's going to help others. So just want to say congratulations.
Yes, thank you. I do use the lived experience that I've had to help others who have been in the struggle and been in the same situation I have, especially from my past childhood trauma all the way until now. So my bucket's full and I plan to pour into others. Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful, beautiful words to end on. All right, next up we have Dr. Rich Ray. This is our final speaker. He's with the Hope Western Prison Education Program. And just make sure the mic is on and begin when you're ready.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, esteemed members of the committee. We frequently remind people that 95% of incarcerated people incarcerated today are eventually going home. We want them to come home like Michael and Jessica, just like them. College can help them do that. I am the co-chair of the Hope Western Prison Education Program that operates in Muskegon Correctional Facility. I come to you today as the chair of the steering committee of the Michigan Consortium for Higher Education in Prison, so that you can understand that this is a rising tide. These are not just individual colleges and universities kind of acting alone, but rather linked at the elbows and committed to making Michigan the absolute tip of the spear when it comes to helping incarcerated people maximize their educational opportunities for the benefit of all of us. MyCHEP was founded very recently, only in May in 2023. We work to elevate best practices in MDOC facilities hosting college and prison programs. We act with Common Cause. We also serve as a kind of advisor to the Michigan Department of Corrections on reviewing programs that wish to operate college and prison programs, so that only those prepared to operate at the highest level and with the most stringent standards are provided access to these particular students, who are very vulnerable people, as Ms. Lechner has already pointed out. I have provided you with two handouts. One is a sort of blue tinted map of the state of Michigan that shows where all of the MDOC facilities are, and the other one is this one right here that shows where college and prison programs are currently operating, and then those that are in the planning phase. You can see that this is there's an increasing number of programs. Right now, I think about a third of the correctional facilities are covered. We hope to increase that to maybe half in the next couple years, and we have heard the director of the Michigan Department of Corrections state publicly on several occasions that it's her goal to see some kind of post-high school program available in every correctional facility in the state of Michigan, which would indeed advance us to the very top of the pile in the country. You can also see that there is a wide variety of institutional types that are offering college and prison programs, from community colleges to state-funded four-year institutions to private liberal arts colleges. This is good because it helps incarcerated students have some choice about the kind of higher education program that would serve them best. We think that's great. We're here to advocate a certain parallelism between federal and state policy. Now that the federal government has reauthorized Pell Grants to incarcerate people around the country, and they anticipate that as many as 750,000 incarcerated people could be affected by this federal policy change. We'd hope to see the state follow suit with programs that are already on the books and need only a minor adjustment to make our incarcerated students in the state of Michigan available for that kind of aid as well. The Pell Grant plus any available state funding is going to go a long way to closing gaps so that more and more colleges and universities can serve more and more incarcerated students towards their college goals. You've heard this morning from various institutional representatives a sort of missional explanation for why they got into this. But I'm hoping that you can see the public policy benefits to why we should extend this. We have made a very, very good start in the state of Michigan. The sky's really the limit. It will be good for everyone. It will be good for the incarcerated students, for their non-incarcerated peers. It will be good for corrections officers who work in very high stress, high threat environments, because college and prison lowers violence in prisons. And it will be good for the citizens of the state of Michigan, because the ROI on investing in college and prison is about 1 to 5, and that's good for all of us living with a $2 billion price tag to run corrections in the state of Michigan. This is the first step, not the last, we hope, to improving the college and prison environment in Michigan. We thank you very much for your support of these bills.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here today. Are there any questions? Okay. See, we're right at the end of time, so let me just quickly read in some cards. We have from Western Michigan supporting the bill, Fred Scheibel. Grand Valley State University supporting the bill is Frank Foster. Lake Superior State University supporting the bill, Stephen Betts. Michigan College Access Network, Ryan Fewens Bliss supporting. Detroit Regional Chamber, Adam Majestic supporting. Hope Network, Joe Haveman supporting. Michigan League for Public Policy, Rachel Richards supporting. Safe and Just Michigan, John Cooper supporting. Center for Employment Opportunity, Deshandria Benfield supporting. Nation Outside, Tony Grant supporting. Michigan Adult Center for College Success, Jeremy Hedges supporting. MI Cure, Kay Perry supporting. Citizens for Prison Reform, Lois Polano supporting. And ACLU of Michigan, Gabriel Dressner supporting. And that's it. Nobody opposing. So, I mean, not on the cards. So thank you all so much for joining us today. I believe there are no absent members. And so with that, the Committee on Higher Ed will, there being no further business before the committee will stand adjourned.